Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of Talk About It with Marvin Lee. And in this episode, I want to talk about, again, this is aptly called Talk About It with Marvin Lee because I talk about what I want to talk about. But in this episode, I'm asking the question, has the media created two different WNBA realities? Again, so in this particular episode, what I want to talk about and why I'm talking about this is, I'm a fan of basketball. But I especially am a fan of women's basketball. One of the reasons being is because I graduated from the University of South Carolina, where Dawn Staley is the head coach. I've been watching the WNBA for quite some time. And so I just basically want to know, has the media created two different WNBA realities? Is Caitlin Clark receiving unprecedented media treatment because she's a generational talent, or is race shaping the narrative? Why do some players dominate headlines while others with championship resumes and MVP awards receive far less attention? Has the media unintentionally or deliberately created division among fans? And what does this controversy reveal about America, sports, race, and the business of professional basketball? So before we get started, let me just go ahead and say this is not a hit piece on Caitlin Clark. It's a conversation about media influence, public perception, and whether the WNBA is being covered through the same lens for every player. No shouting, no cancel culture. Just the questions many people are already asking, but few are willing to discuss honestly. So, do you believe the media has a bias in how it covers the WNBA? Join me in the conversations and comment. And first off, what I want to know, the first question I want to ask is, what makes this conversation so emotional? In other words, why does the mention of Caitlin Clark immediately divide people into opposing camps? And is this really about basketball, or has it become something much bigger? And in my opinion, anything that I say again is only my opinion. I am not trying to do a hit piece on anybody. These are my thoughts and my opinions. So for me, with the mention of Caitlin Clark, it's a little unfair the way I see it, because the media has created this narrative as I see it. The media is the problem that Caitlin Clark has. Now, for me, Caitlin Clark, she has come along. Nobody's denying that she's a generational talent, but I've heard it said that black players have problems with her because she's white. That is simply not true. That is the narrative that the media is putting out to create clicks, to attract viewers, and all these other things. And saying that Caitlin Clark is the face of the WNBA. Um, One of the things that I take issue with is this league was built on the black backs of a lot of people, black and white. Black fans do not have a problem, and I know I can say this for me. I don't have a problem with Caitlin Clark because she is white. My issue is, again, are we talking about basketball, or is this about something else that's much bigger? And there is an element of race that is involved, because it's been said that she's the greatest of all time. She's the face of the WNBA, the popularity. I mean, when we get to a point that there are players who established the league and have been around for quite some time, what I feel like, in my honest opinion, is happening is that, again, the hard work of the tall black female giants that Caitlin Clark is standing on. It's not that she's not admitting that, hey, this league is not about me, but people seem to think that the WNBA is Caitlin's league, and I firmly believe that the media plays into this deliberately. And if you don't believe me, there's an article that I want to reference. I'm going to see if I can bring this up and share this. Let's see, share screen. Hang on just a second here. This is what we're going to do. Okay. Let's drag this down right here. Share screen. Hang on just a second. And wait until you see this article, this first article that talks about attractive white women dominating the WNBA draft and huge win for DEI. DEI is something that has allegedly ended. And I'm glad that I was able to find this article, because, and this, I want to stay on topic, because I have another podcast, The Black of the Berry, and when we're talking about DEI, this is proof that the most of all benefactors where DEI is concerned, white women are the most that benefit most from DEI. So the things that we're being told about certain things, again, these are narratives that are created because it creates interest, and anything that creates interest. Remember, all money ain't good money, and even the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. We're talking about basketball, a sport that should be talking about the talent. And not just the talent of one individual. It shouldn't be talking about just race alone. It shouldn't talk about any of these things. But to have an article like this, attractive white women dominate the WNBA. What about all of the black women that are just as equally attractive, if not more? And not only that, remember, we have a league where we have international players that are a part of the league too, but this is specifically about white women that are dominating the league, right? And this is crazy. So again, for example, let me get some of these off here. Hang on a second. Again, black fans, we don't have a problem with Caitlin Clark. We don't have a problem with white players. I happen to like Caitlin. But what I will say this, she does have a bit of an attitude. She does have a bit of this way, the whiny complaining. This I heard her in an interview saying how she grew up playing with the boys. Okay, you grew up playing with the boys, but you're in a physical league of women, and if you played with men and you can't take the physicality of the game, then what are we talking about? How do we get here? And I think the media has painted a target on her back. Whether unintentional or deliberately, it doesn't matter. The media has done that. And then you have social media fans who are the keyboard cowboys that are the Monday morning quarterbacks that know absolutely nothing about the sport and only started watching because of how the media hyped Caitlin Clark up when she was at the University of Iowa. Now, I am a graduate of the University of South Carolina. No, I did not like it when we played Iowa and everybody jumped on Don Staley and said that Don Staley was racist, which that's whatever. But South Carolina was playing a predominantly white team, and you could see a bias, and you could see in the reporting that South Carolina should have won that game. But the way the coaching, I mean, not the coaching, the refereeing, and this is not me crying over spilled milk, this is just factual. They had to get our star players out of the game. Now, this is not to say that Iowa did not have a good team. I'm not saying that at all. But they did get assistance from the referees in that particular game. I remember watching it. That was the last year of the freshies. But at any rate, again, when Caitlin Clark waved Raven Johnson off, that was one of the most disrespectful things. And this is my personal issue with Caitlin Clark, that I don't dislike her. There are some things that she does and ways that she acts. It's just like the league is not about her. And then when it's hard for me to sit by and watch other women that have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into making the league what it is. Now, two things can be true at the same time. Yes, Caitlin Clark is popular. However she became popular, the media narratives, whatever, whether they're biased or not, there are more eyes on the sport. I agree with that, but it is not singularly because of one player. Now, I'm going to get back to this. I'm going to segue in a minute because there's some exciting players that are in the league, and there have been many white women that have come along way before Caitlin Clark. Why do they not get the same accolades as Caitlin? It's been said that Caitlin is the greatest of all times, and that she's been compared to like the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the Jordans. Let me say this: in order to be the greatest of all times, first and foremost, one thing that Caitlin does not have that those players had are championship rings. Let me say that again. You cannot be considered the greatest of all times if you don't have championship rings. I don't care. I know Don Staley said that she was the greatest of all times after we won the national championship in 2024. When Raven Johnson shut her down. Yes, Raven Johnson got her lick back in that game, and South Carolina won the national championship. She absolutely shut Caitlin Clark down. Now, again, if you just look at the Indiana team all alone, just look at Indiana, right? Indiana by itself. Kelsey Mitchell, phenomenal, happens to be black. But let me keep this centered around the lie that we have an issue with Caitlin Clark because she's a white player. Again, There's Paige Beckers, who I think is a much better player. I like Lexi Hall. I've always watched her, been watching her, and I forgot her sister's name. There is, and I love me some Kelsey Plum. What about Sue Bird back in the day, Breonna Stewart, and they're from UConn, and I don't particularly care for UConn because of the attitude and actions of their head coach. Sandy Brondello from back in the day. She now played coaches. She used to coach for the New York Liberty. She's now the coach of the Toronto team. I think it's Toronto. Yes, Toronto. I think it is Toronto. Yes. Sandy Brondello is at Toronto. Of course, we know Becky Hammond is right there at Las Vegas. You can't forget about Rebecca Lobo. I already said Sue Bird. You can't forget about even the newer faces, Sarah Ashley Barker. She's in the league. Cameron Brink, love her. What's my new girl? They beat us in the champion, Lauren Betts and Sienna Betts. They drugged South Carolina in the national championship game. It is time for us to stop making issues about race when they are not. But it's also time for us to acknowledge why certain narratives get painted to generate viewership. So it's not that Caitlin is so popular that she's the face of the league. Again, when you get to the point that the Black players that have been there, it's like too many times we've watched the accomplishments, accolades of Black players get diminished because there's another article that talked about how Caitlin Clark became the great white hope of the WNBA. And I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know. Let me actually, what am I doing? Hold on a second. Let me cancel that. Present or invite, share screen, because I want you to see this for yourselves. Why do we have narratives like this in the media? There is a bias in the media. Can you see this? How Caitlin Clark became the great white hope of the WNBA. And it's no secret that white people often center themselves in American society, even in a sport like professional basketball, where the vast majority of players are Black. They find a way to elevate their heroes as if they are inherently superior. We can see this phenomenon in the way sports commentators and fans have elevated Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever Guard as the great white hope of the WNBA. And that's like saying that the Transportation Safety Board, National Transportation, whatever, they create the interstates. I can't get to where I'm going had it not been for the actions that they took, right? So they created these highways all of a sudden just because I'm driving on the highways, I'm popular. Am I responsible for this? No. So the way the media has propped Caitlin up, the media has inadvertently, and I don't know, I'm not even going to say inadvertently, the media has propped her up and painted a target on her back. Yes, this is a physical sport, and warranted or not, I think we need to just stop with the hype. Like, just stop with the hype, because again, Caitlin Clark has not won since she has been in the league, right? Asia Wilson has 4 MVP titles. Asia Wilson has 3 WNBA championship rings. Not 1, not 2, 3. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 MVPs awards. And let's not talk about the defensive player that she is, and with her own shoe line, which, when Caitlin Clark had a shoe when she was coming out of Iowa, and of course, Asia had a shoe, but she couldn't talk about it. And there was a lot of hype around that because, yes, a lot of people were rightly upset because you're diminishing and dismissing the accolades, the accomplishments, and the talent of Black players while hyping a white player at the same time. Of course, they had the collective bargaining agreement. Nothing and nobody is perfect. The WNBA is not perfect. It does not. I watch because Dawn Staley, she has her players, like she is a pipeline of breeding grounds for the WNBA. I remember her saying that she wants to take over the WNBA, that there needs to be a Gamecock player on the floor at all times. And she's getting there. There are 3 of them on the Indiana Fever team as Caitlin Clark's teammates, actually 4, because there's Aaliyah Boston, there's Ty Harris, there's Raven Johnson, and don't forget Bree Hall. And let's not forget that Destiny Henderson, she was drafted to the Indiana Fever when she she graduated from South Carolina after the 2022 national championship. We defeated UConn. It's crazy because I just got distracted. But anyways, and then of course we got Leticia Ami here with Golden State Valkyries. We got Medina Okot, Tahina Papa, and Alicia Gray with the Atlanta Dream. Who else we have? We have Sanaya Fagan that got waived from the Sparks, where Tanaya Latson was just picked up. But Sanaya Fagan got picked up with Portland Fire. We got We got Zaya Cook playing for Seattle. Who else do we have? We don't have anybody in New York. We don't have anybody in Dallas. I think I basically covered everybody. I think. But the point that I'm making is this. I've been watching, and I know a lot of other South Carolinians that watched the WNBA because of players like that. Now, in terms of you have to be living under a rock if you don't know who Caitlin Clark is. And part of it is, has she earned her attention through her talent alone? Or is it because the media has tried to prop her up, or the white biased media wants to prop her up to be the great white hope? You guys saw the article. I just read it. What accomplishments explain why so many people are following her? Because again, she does not have any championship rings on any level to this point. No championship rings. She may have won gold medals with the USA team, but again, this is a team sport, and you have to be careful when you take one individual and elevate them to a place of like this dominance, something that clearly she's not. But at any rate, there's nothing wrong with celebrating a superstar, in my opinion. And sports leagues, I feel, should market their biggest stars, but we have to be cautious and careful how we do this. Because again, it's in my opinion, it is not fair. Everyone is not being covered equally. Olivia Miles, she's in contention for the Rookie of the Year. I mean, came out of TCU. She played for Notre Dame with Coach Neil Ivy, I think it's her name. But anyways, Olivia Miles, that girl is a beast. She is a beast. You got, again, Paige Beckers. She's a white player out of UConn. I think, in my opinion, Paige Beckers is a much better complete player on both sides of the ball than Caitlin Clark. But why is Caitlin Clark being elevated and Paige Beckers is not? And again, I even heard another journalist, and this was just the most asinine thing I had heard, and it was a female journalist, a journalist who happened to be female and black, who was advocating for Caitlin Clark, but in so doing was denigrating some other black players. Is it because and maybe she was just asking her question and I just heard it wrong because I've been dealing with my own stuff lately. I mean, I think I've been PMS, and I'm just gonna be honest. But anyways, her question was, is it because the league is predominantly gay and predominantly black, and then Caitlin Clark, she's white and not gay? Like, really? You really went there? Like, there's no journalistic integrity in that. Like, it's just foolishness is what it is, in my opinion. But again, the media has hyped Caitlin Clark up so much so to the point that if you're constantly throwing an athlete in everybody's face and trying to make them the poster child or the golden child for something that other people have made possible for them, it is, whether intentional or not, and whether she leans into it or not, because at some point she has to know that the media is the real adversary here. Is not the other players on the floor with her, because it is a physical sport. Basketball is a physical sport. It is not a popularity sport. It is a sport that is based on talent and physicality. It is not a game that is played based on being whiny and, oh, this happened to me, and oh, why this, and oh, why that. If you're gonna talk the talk, be able to. If you're gonna talk about it, be about it. That's just what it is. But again, it's everyone being covered equally. So why do some players seem to dominate headlines while others don't? When you have players like Asia Wilson, again, 4-time MVP, four, 3-time national, one national championship in college. Caitlin Clark didn't do that. 3 national championships in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark hasn't done that yet. I'm not saying she won't do it, but if we're comparing apples to apples, let's be real about this. Don't hype one player up as the face of the WNBA when they have yet to accomplish. That's like saying that a baby is born, or a toddler graduates. Not a toddler. Okay, that's just like saying that someone graduates high school. Well, now let me not go that. I was going right the first time. A child graduates pre-K and going to 4th kindergarten. All of a sudden, because they're so popular, so famous, it's like taking that kid from that because they're going to the kindergarten. Like, I'm gonna make you a CEO of this company that you have no knowledge of how to run. You have nothing to do with this. It was created, and I'm just gonna hand this to you. And I'm not saying Caitlin Clark is not does not fit well within the mold of the WNBA. I'm not saying that, but you can't just hand the keys to the league over to her because of her popularity. Because that makes absolutely no sense. And this, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, what role does the media play in shaping public perception? In my opinion, the media simply does not report the news, and the media does decide whether, they decide which stories become the news because they have a narrative. The narrative drives the interest, and the interest drives the viewership, ratings. This is what they're looking for, and when we have a divisive society such as what we have now, it is so crazy. It's like you cannot look in Caitlin Clark's direction without mostly MAGA and these new mainstream bandwagon fans because of the name and because you got a generational talent in Caitlin Clark. Yes, the girl can shoot logo threes, the side step three, phenomenal. But none of that matters if you don't. The greatness doesn't matter to me if you don't have a championship to your name. If you don't have accolades in terms of you got the rookie of the year, yes, you were the number 1 overall pick when you came out, yes, fine. But you've been hurt quite a bit, and it's not because everybody's roughing you up, baby. You got to come ready to play. Whininess does not cut it. You got to play, and at the end of the day, humility goes a longer way in anything. As opposed to arrogance. And again, the wave off of Raven Johnson, but I was so glad that Raven Johnson was honest enough to lean into everything that happened and got her lick back. And not only did she get her lick back, but in the process of getting the lick back, she won a national championship. Something that Caitlin Clark will never, ever be able to say that she has is an NCAA national championship ring. And that's not me, again, doing a hit piece on Caitlin Clark or anything. I'm simply talking about something that she did. Hey, if you want to act the part, be ready for the smoke. If you bring the matches like you're going to light the fire, be ready for the smoke. That's all I'm saying. And in the media, it says if controversy is more profitable than the game of basketball itself. And when we get to that point, it's just crazy. The television ratings do influence the stories that we see. And conflict can create engagement, but it's important to remember that all attention is not good attention. Race influences media coverage without every journalist being intentionally biased, but some are intentionally and deliberately biased because I got to get that next great piece, and again, bias can be unconscious, it can be conscious, but it does enter into the storytelling. And one of the questions is bias always deliberate? I would say so, because we're so baked into ratings that whatever it takes to get it, we're willing to... all money ain't good money. I'm sorry. Journalistic integrity still matters. There's a way to cover all athletes, all sports, and give people their appropriate shine without going in the gutter and pissing the viewership off. It's just, but whatever. There's a question: why has race become part of this conversation? And again, race has become a part of this conversation. It always has been. It seems like the accomplishments of Black women, in my opinion, are the most degraded demographic that there is. So anytime that I see these things, naturally speaking, don't tell me I can't be sensitive. Yes, I'm sensitive, and I'm going to be sensitive to certain things. That's where empathy comes in. You have to be sensitive to a thing to become empathetic in that regard, to understand it. Now, do I let my sensitivities drive my emotions, or my emotions drive the outcome of what I think or what I feel? I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of that in there, but at the end of the day, I'm still a logical and a rational, not irrational, but a rational person. And there are concerns that Black players should have, and longtime WNBA and WNBA fans should have also, and they should be able to express those because a lot of us believe that the league's pioneers aren't receiving enough recognition. Yes, Caitlin Clark has gotten a lot of flack since coming to the league, but think about why that is. The media narratives. They feed the red meat to the ravenous base, which a lot of are MAGA, and it does get into this whole white people. Kate, why do we have a piece talking about Caitlin Clark being the great white hope of the WNBA? Baby, that diminishes the accomplishments of the Isaiah Jameses and the what is her name? What is her name? She was at LSU with Angel Reese. She plays for the Connecticut Sun. But anyway, she's a beast. Anissa Morrow. She's a beast. You got I just told you about Olivia Miles. We got Hannah Hidalgo. She's still in college, but she's gonna be coming into the league. The league is full of talented players. Caitlin Clark is not the only generational talent that there is, and we have to be careful when we start labeling people generational talents and whatnot, because she's not the only one. AZ Fudd is good. She's from UConn. Don't like UConn, whatever. But there are other players. I like Sarah Ashley Barker. She came from Alabama. I like Anat. What's her name? What is her name? Aaliyah Nye. She played for. She was drafted from the University of Alabama. She played for the Las Vegas Aces. Love her. There are other players who are some. I'm drawing a blank, but there's so many. It is not fair to say that Black fans have a problem with Caitlin Clark because she's white, because that is not true. There is a history of white women being in the league, and they've been welcomed. They have been embraced. One thing that Black people always do is we always embrace people. We celebrate them. We talk on stuff, and we keep it pushing. That is what it is. So again, I believe that when you try to prop one player up, you try to make one player's light shine brighter, or you diminish one person's flame to make somebody else's brighter. You as an organization, you as a business, you have to understand there's going to be some backlash, because people are passionate about what they're passionate about. Some sensible, some just not. But the conversation needs to stay centered around something meaningful and thoughtful, and understand that a lot of this division is centered around current events in America. And one of the questions that I was looking at is, what does this debate reveal about America? It reveals that America is divided, and it reveals that Black people, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Black people have been dominant. We dominate in anything that we do. It doesn't matter what the sport is. It just is what it is. That's just a fact. You can call me racist for saying that, and you need to understand what racism is before you start saying things like that. Like, Marvin's racist. No, he's not. I can have prejudices and I can have biases, but it is impossible for me to be racist, because it is about a system of power. We're not gonna talk about that. That's the black or the baby. But anyways, I said all that and I forgot where I was going with that. But America is so divided that anything that causes or elevates or points to white supremacy or superiority or entitlement, there are a group of white people that will latch onto that and celebrate it like it's Thanksgiving for them, like it's Christmas. They just got a gift at Christmas morning. They're so happy, whatever. And it's crazy. But sports do often reflect broader cultural conversations. And with basketball, we're not exclusive in anything that we've ever done. That's the funny thing about Black people. We've never had private clubs like the golf courses, the golf clubs, members only, to keep those out that we don't want. We've never been like that. We always embrace people. And when you come in, hey, you can come to the party, come to the house that I built, but don't come in trying to take over my house. If my name is on the deed of trust, don't come over here thinking you running nothing, because that's not how we do this. And then you have a media that deliberately or not intentionally, they create these biases and they run with it. And then they cry victim. They have players that cry victim to a set of circumstances that the media is creating. And the media is sitting there laughing all the way to the bank, making money. And then you got the foolish ones that are sitting behind the keyboard somewhere, thugging it out, trying to be, in the know about everything, whatever. But moving forward, can we celebrate Caitlin Clark without diminishing other players? And that's a very important question. Can we celebrate Caitlin Clark without diminishing other players? And I say yes, but if you want respect, shut up, play the game, get some championship rings under your belt, and I'll respect you more. But the whining is it just isn't for me. It just isn't that. It doesn't do it for me. The fans do have a responsibility in this, because one of the questions is, and I'm kind of answering some of the questions before I ask it, because I got to get out of here. I need to get to a meeting. The question is, what responsibility do the fans have? And it's sad that people are going to be people. And, you know, fans should have the responsibility of leaving the biases at the door, whether they're black or whether they're white, doesn't matter. Understand the sport. You can respect the sport, you can appreciate the talent, but don't make the game about one individual, especially when that one individual was a baby when or wasn't even thought of when the league came into existence. Just we don't do that. And I hope I did. I didn't want to come on here and speak too long about too much. But one thing I do want to know is, what if this debate is not about it's not about Caitlin Clark? What if it's not about Caitlin Clark? What if it's really about who gets to shape the narrative, which we already know, and that's the media, because they're making money in her back. She gets roughed up by another player from an opposing team, and her fans get all upset. But what about the media, who's basically exploiting her? Just saying. How do we recognize excellence while also asking whether everyone is being covered fairly? If it's good for one, it should be good for all. If you're going to cover one, cover all. Because again, Caitlin is not the best to do it. Just saying. You can argue at me if you want to. I don't care. This is not a hit piece on Caitlin Clark. These are my thoughts, my opinions, and I can do that because it's called Talk About It with Marvin Lee. And this is what I'm talking about. If you don't like it, watch another podcast. Are we reacting to facts or to the stories that we've been told? So again, support. That's one of the responsibilities of the fans. We need to have the facts, not fiction, not narrative, facts. And what kind of sports culture do we want to build moving forward? And in closing, again, I don't expect everyone watching to agree with me. And in fact, I hope you don't simply accept my perspective. I hope that you will think critically for yourself, challenge your own assumptions, and continue the conversation respectfully. If this episode made you think, share it with someone who sees the issues differently. Let's keep talking about it. Hope to see you guys next week for episode 8 of Talk About It with Marvin Lee. Have a good evening.